I wouldn't even have said they were drug dealers. They were buying ounces on the streets and reselling it. Sal was just a regular Sal, young guy, doing a little hustle on the side. You know, if anybody, I was a drug dealer, right? I'm the one bringing in 800 kilos a month. I think that Sal put two and two together. My father started telling how I was always traveling and that I was putting a banana company together in Colombia. Then Sal just impossible. I mean, George is 21 years old. He's making $1 million a month. He ain't selling bananas. Let me talk to you, son. Tell him to give me a meeting. I finally gave him a meeting. I had about 15 minutes to meet with him. I was in a rush. He was at my office. And he said, give me a chance. And I think that I can sell some coke here and there. And I'm like, well, how much money do you have? And he's like, I think $10,000 or $20,000. And I literally almost peed in my pants. At that time, it was $42,000 in Miami wholesale for a kilo of cocaine. I didn't want to insult him because I've always loved Sal, even till today. So I'm like, all right, let me see if the opportunity arises, because right now, we really are committed somewhere else.
George Valdes is setting an example of cleaning up his life.
I didn't walk away because I got arrested. I didn't change my life because I'm sorry I got caught. I walked away because I want nothing to do with that world.
He speaks at over 30 youth rallies every year and is now establishing a center for counseling and working with youth.
Now, my passion is to make more money so I can send 1 million books and help prisoners to find hope and to find redemption and to look at the world that, hey, if George Valdes changed, I can change too. It doesn't matter how we fall, what matters is how we get up.
There's no greater corrupter than power and money.
We realized that, wow, this guy is certainly living in the fast lane.
His accounts got bigger and his money got faster.
Just a very lavish lifestyle.
George became the playboy.
My first impression was that he had wasted an awful lot of money on some very high-priced attorneys.
Like that saying, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
He was on his way to jail as far as I was concerned.
Miami in the late 20th century, emerging crossroads of Latin culture, big money, and cocaine's major port of entry into the United States. At age 10, George Valdes stepped off a plane onto Florida soil for the first time from Cuba.
At 17 years old, we moved to Miami, and I got a job working for the Federal Reserve Bank. And I worked full-time and went to school full-time for 4 years. When I was getting close to graduating, my first accounting professor says to me, George, I have a great deal for you. Why don't you come work for me? I've opened a CPA firm here in Florida, but I realized I don't speak Spanish. You can have an office here with secretary, copy machine, and everything, and just do my Spanish client. Well, the first business that I went to see was called La Puerta del Sol. It's just a small shopping center. It doesn't look like much. I start to do the books for them, and I start to get close to them, because when I told them that I worked for the government, I told them I knew how to open foreign bank accounts. And they told me straight out that they were drug dealers. And suddenly, they began to ask me to handle their drug operations in the United States. Because I was young, I was bright in their eyes, and at the same time, I had a very clean record. I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, and I didn't use drugs. Who would suspect that that young kid that was put through school at the University of Miami by the Federal Reserve Bank is a drug dealer? Little did I know that this little rinky-dinky grocery store would be the original front for what one day would become the Medellin drug cartel, importing 95% of all the cocaine that came into America. Within 3 months, I was making $1 million a month.
He flaunted it every single way you could imagine. To everybody.
I have a Lear jet. I have a Jet Ranger helicopter. I lived in a $7 million ranch. I had a $500,000 house on the ocean, a condo in Vail. I had a 53-foot yacht. I had spent $160,000 in the speedboat. I looked around one day, I had $1 million worth of cars.
I remember one Christmas, there were two Mercedes gift wrapped in the parking lot, one for him and one for his partner. Their gift to each other.
Like Le Hermitage. All the faucets were gold. The shower head cost me $10,000. Everything was the best of the best.
Flaunting was his specialty, and ego was his mainstay.
I remember one day, I go home, and I go to eat, and my mom is crying. And my mom says, son, don't you see it? What you're doing doesn't please God. And I got so irate that day. I looked at her, I said, Mom, what God? God ain't real. Are you stupid? First time I ever called my mom stupid. I said, you wanna know who God is? I'm God. I buy and sell anyone I want every day of the week. I can have anything I want, and I got the power of life or death. You see these people around me? They'll take a bullet for me. That equals God to me.
Things changed. We drifted apart, and then came May of 1979.
I'm in Bolivia, and I need to get to this country to meet with this president. And the only way to do that was if I got on that airplane with cocaine. My godfather realizes that here is the person that handles everything for the cartel in the United States is inside an airplane with almost 200 kilos of cocaine, 200 gallons of gasoline, a tank of ether, a bladder to give us extra distance to get to America, a flying bomb, and he went ballistic. I said, Manuel, don't worry. I'll be fine. Nothing can happen to me. The airplane had problem mechanically, lost one alternator. I crashed over the jungles of Panama. And my first thought was, step 50 feet from the airplane, take the flare gun and blow it up. And suddenly, there were 7 million reasons why not blow it up. That cocaine was worth millions of dollars. The police came. Soon enough, of course, in comes the head of the intelligence division for Panama, the DEA agent in charge of the Panama office, the consul general from Panama. I was in the cattle business at this time. I had this fancy ranch with cattle buyers. They line us up and they put all the cocaine in front of us. And here I am staring at this and my world just shattered. But I said to myself, I'll defeat them. Death couldn't take me. I'll be darned if these Panamanians are gonna beat me. So they take me to see the Attorney General. I said, I don't wanna waste your time or my time. How much is it gonna cost me to buy the cocaine back? And how much is it gonna cost me to leave this country? He looked at me, laughed, and he says, $250,000 for your leave. The cocaine has been sold. I said, send someone to see me. I'll give him a telephone number. You'll have your money here in 2 days. I go back and tell the pilots, I just worked out a deal with the Attorney General. I said, they told me that they're gonna take us to the city of Panama. They're gonna rough us up a little bit, and that's okay, just to make it look good for the Americans. Stay strong, stick to our story. This sergeant tells me, talk or they're gonna kill you, because they're not gonna stop. The two pilots broke weak, and not only did they say, we will tell the truth, they just said that I had just bribed the Attorney General. They take us to a dungeon, and for the next 10, 14, I don't even know how many days, they torture us so bad that for 5 years, I urinated blood. I never felt so much pain in my life. And they grabbed me like a sack of potato and threw me on an airplane to Miami. I got to Miami, the DEA, a beautiful escort was waiting for me. They said, welcome to the big leagues.
I was just a couple of years out of law school, and it was a real big case for me. So I got an opportunity to really not just meet George in court, but when it went time to go to dinner, you know, he would be there, and I really got to know him for the drug dealer that he was. And he certainly was. He was about as big a drug dealer as you get.
I went into prison, and you think that was going to have an effect in my life? I got to prison, it was like a homecoming event. Everybody was there to work for me or for someone to work for me.
He did not learn by his first incarceration. He had it too easy.
I had all the money in the world, and I realized that you can live just as good in prison as you can outside. You just can't go home.
He had it too easy. And he just went right back.
The minute I get out, I went back to the same thing, stronger and bigger than ever.
George became the playboy.
I was looking for love in the wrong avenues.
A trend he followed for many years.
It's almost ironic because when I was in the drug business and I was at the epitome of my power, people used to come to me and say, George, how are you doing? And I used to say to them, horrible, those that were intimate with me. I knew that there had to be more to life than just being born, suffering, and dying. So I began to find that through academia, and I didn't. I tried to find it in possessions, and I had $1 million worth of cars, and I was still empty, and more miserable, and more disenchanted. I tried to find it in women. I went out with the prettiest models. One day, my ex-wife, I am partying in my house in my ranch. I had an enormous room with a bar inside and all that, and she decided that night she was gonna drop off my little jewel, Crystal, and I told the maid, don't let her out of the room. Whenever she came to visit me and I was with her, I would never have no woman around. But this time the woman were already there when she came. And in the middle of the night, she knocks on the door. She said, Daddy, it's Crystal. And I never felt so filthy. And dirty in my life. And I began to shiver, and I told the girls, get out of my room. And she said, they went to go out the door. I said, no, out the window. And I got underneath my covers and I started to shake. And she kept knocking. And I shook and I shivered, and my room was freezing cold, and I was sweating my life away, and went out for an hour. Then finally, I didn't hear her anymore. And then I felt that when she got quiet, I was so dehydrated, I went to get water. And when I went to get water, she was by the floor crying. And I said, this is it. Early in the morning, I called the members of the cartel that were my partners, and I said, look, if I gotta come clean, I gotta cut clean, I'm out. They offered me an enormous amount of money. I got enough now to live comfortable for the rest of my life. And I moved out of Miami into my ranch. I decided that I was gonna take karate because now I lived out in the country. The nearest town is 20 miles away and I needed exercise. And I hired this guy to come teach me karate.
Every morning he wanted to learn. He wanted to get the black belt as fast as he could. So we started teaching, and he started becoming receptive, started getting better and better. And the relationship was working out. Then I spoke about another sword.
And I'm looking at him so intrigued. This guy gonna take up some type of a remote control thing, press a button, and a sword's gonna pop out. And he pulls out a Bible.
And I told him that man is made up not only of body, but he's actually three-part: body, soul, and spirit.
And I got irate. I said, I'm paying you a lot of money to come teach me karate every day. Tomorrow, leave that sword home and bring the real sword. This man gets close to me where I can smell his breath and says to me, son, what I got to give you, you ain't got no money to pay. This guy's a 7th-degree black belt, and I realized I didn't have a gun. So immediately I said, oh, I don't have to pay? He said, no. I said, okay. When we finish our karate lesson, 2 hours, while the steam room is heating up, waste your time.
So I continued my karate lessons, continued teaching him, continued giving him the word.
He came back for 3 years and witnessed to me every day for 3 years.
I prayed with him, and he accepted Christ as his Savior into his heart. And never did I realize in my wildest dreams that just a few months later that the feds would come in
Drug enforcement agents, customs agents, FBI agents, they're all involved, IRS agents.
Completely confiscate everything and take him off.
But they go after him with a zeal that is second to none.
He wasn't going to get away, even if he had turned his life around.
Now I was facing 8 counts: conspiracy, conspiracy to possess, conspiracy to distribute, 8 life sentences without the possibility of parole.
They wanted to see him under the jail, never mind in the jail.
My lawyer came to see me. He said, we got a chance of winning. It's not that amount of great evidence. And I said, Alan, I'm tired of fighting. I got to come clean. I'm a Christian now.
I have heard that story and I've heard that song. If I've heard it once, I heard it 1,000 times.
And I can go in there and tell these people I'm innocent. I'm guilty. And I got to come clean.
It's embarrassing to the point of being laughable to assert in court that your client has become a born-again Christian or has had some tremendous transformation religiously.
My first test of being a Christian is I'm in jail, looking at the possibility of staying there the rest of my life. Somehow I had this peace in me that it was going to be all right. Eventually I was released, went to Wheaton College and finished my master's. Then I applied to Loyola for a doctorate in New Testament, and I was accepted.
His passion for his ministry is something that has inspired me from the beginning.
Because of who I was, I can go to places that nobody can.
This is not just somebody who is cooking this up or something to try to get out of prison, but clearly somebody who feels he has a real mission in life to help others.
I did a gang revival in Chicago. And when I finished speaking, and I look at the corner of my eye, and I see these 2 10-year-old kids with their gang jackets on, crying like I've never seen anybody cry. And I realized that by them coming forward, they were risking their life because they had shown weakness.
I have never seen an individual who can inspire people and transform people's lives through his own faith as George.
And then I realized that day that my job was on the streets with these kids, because if my story had created such an impact in their life that they're willing to risk death, and it's like he hit me with a sledgehammer and said, I didn't save you to be a college professor. Suddenly I said, Lord, then why did you put me through that pain of a Ph.D. program? Why couldn't I have just finished at Wheaton College with a master? That's good enough.
At great cost to himself, literally and figuratively, he has committed himself to Christ and to his family and to his community.
Little did I realize that was going to give me the opportunity to witness to very rich people, very great scholars. And I'm going to preach them with boldness, and I'm going to preach them to the ends of the world. It's almost like when Paul goes to the church in Galatia. They didn't know nothing about me. All they knew is that now that person that destroyed the faith is proclaiming it. And it's very important for us to always keep our eyes focused on that one verse where it says, and they glorify God in me. And it wasn't that they glorify God because George is great. I'm nothing. It's just that they glorify God because he can change George. And if he can change me, he can change any human being on earth. Dear brothers and sisters, I hope that you enjoyed the video, but not for the wrong reason. Not because the lifestyle that I lived or the wealth that I had, it meant nothing. I was a miserable human being. I got to places that many of you will never ever reach. And once you do reach it, if you do ever reach it, you will realize that it's empty, that there's nothing there. Life and meaning for me began the day I surrendered everything. Surrendered my life to God and also surrendered everything to the government. I went to prison not knowing what was going to happen to me. I spent a total of 10 years in prison, but at the end, I came out, and this is the message I bring to you, that there is hope, that there is redemption, that there is salvation if you come clean and if you get your life straight. God will meet you right where you're at. You don't have to worry about changing this, that, to be able to be right with God. He'll meet you right where you're at. But the most important thing of them all is that once that you do, new life begins. For me, I enjoyed earning a Ph.D. in theology and learning more about God, and then building a company from zero into a multi-million-dollar company that I eventually sold and retired at the age of 56, a millionaire. It was a hard road. Change is not easy. Change is hard. but change is eternal and grateful. I'm sorry I cannot give you my address or email so you can communicate directly with me, but by contacting your chaplain, he will get it known to my staff. Listen, God bless you, and do not ever give up hope. As long as there's hope, there's life. Dear brothers and sisters, I hope that when you've seen this film, you've enjoyed it, but not for the wrong reasons. I know you don't get to watch Netflix, but if your family or one day you get to watch this special that I was just recently featured on Netflix, Cocaine Cowboys, Kings of Miami, you will realize that this life had not a good ending. For me, I thank God that I was able to reinvent myself. I was able to realize that there was hope, that there was a God that forgives, and that I changed my life and turned my life around. Yes, that life is glamorous. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. And yes, was it fun? Yes, but the consequences that it brought were tremendous. Here's Sal, a dear friend of mine who grew up with me, whom I opened and I literally handed the keys to the cartel to him. Now he's dying in a federal prison for the rest of his life. So there is no joy and there is nothing, no satisfaction in his life. It's just a moment of excitement that eventually you realize you're going to be empty and it's not going to lead you nowhere, most likely death or jail. You have a chance right now to reinvent yourself. And it is my prayer, my hope, as I send out a new version of the book, Coming Clean, that I sent to prisons called Narco Mindset Prison Edition. It's an edition that I did that highlights the principles in my life by which I lived. And it makes you question a lot of things in life. Is money all that matters? Is power? Is women? Whatever it is. I hope that when you finish reading the book, the only thing that you take away from it is that there is faith. There's a God that forgives. That you are not defined by your past. That every choice that you make becomes part of your story. But your story at the end of your life does not have to be a bad story. So I thank God for the opportunity and the mission that He's given me to send 1 million books to prisons so that men, women, and young men like yourself can read the book and they can see the video and to realize that, listen, we need to change and change now. Yeah, I came out of prison dead broke. I didn't have anything at the age of 40, but I had a faith and I had a strong mindset that told me that I could reinvent myself, and I did. I earned a Ph.D. Then when I realized that I couldn't put all my children through college with my college degree and I wanted to be a full-time dad to my children, I started a company in the basement of the house and I built it into a multi-million-dollar company. And I was able to retire at the age of 56, a multi-millionaire. The message to you is, listen, don't let that negative society and that negative message out there and a system that is set up to destroy you, allow it to. You are the author of your own destiny. You are the author of your story. You can write an amazing story. The past will not be the definition of your story. The future is. And you have an opportunity as you're seeing this video or reading the book Narco Mindset to change your life and become all that you were created to be. So I thank you so much for this. I can't answer your emails or your letters, but if you tell your chaplain and he will send a notice or a note to my staff, then they'll pass it on to me. So again, God bless you. Don't let society, don't let the negative message, don't let those negative influence destroy your life. You were created for greatness. You can become all that you were created to be and more. Be blessed and have a wonderful life.